Good morning, scholars. Today we're going to continue our way through Farr's Homeric Greek, a book for beginners, looking in detail at the vocabulary of Lesson 15. So, to just do a quick overview of all the words, Áναξ, Áνακτος, king, lord, protector, āneros, a hero or warrior, Ra, a particle rather subtle, which can mean naturally, of course, as you know, as you might expect, that is, in effect. And as Farr states here, it is not always translatable into English, which has no exact equivalent. Basileos, king, ruler. Indeed, truly, forsooth, now. D'i-ίστημι, diasteso, diastesa, and then second aorist, diestain, to stand apart, to separate. But we'll see that the meaning of that is a good deal more complex. Ἐρίζω, erisa, to quarrel or strive. Éridos, eridos, strife, quarrel. Leto, letus, Leto, the mother of Apollo. Mάχ-ε-σθαι, to fight, to battle. This is a deponent verb. It has middle endings with active meaning, and we'll talk about those very soon in detail. Ξυν-ί-իմι, ξυν-έσω, ξυν-έκα, ξυν-έκα, to bring together, throw together, hearken, heed. όρνῡμι, όρσω, όρσα, όρον, to stir up, kindle, incite, excite, arouse. Πρῶτος, πρῶτε, πρῶτον, first, foremost, chief. As an adverb, to πρῶτον, ta πρῶτα, mean at first, firstly, first. And then finally, vios, viou, vios, viou, the word for son. So, as adverbs, we had πρῶτος, πρῶτε, πρῶτον, and to πρῶτον, ta πρῶτα, adverbs, firstly, first of all. Our nouns, third declension, Áναξ, Áνακτος, āneros, basileus, basileos, éridos, Leto, letus. Pαῖς, παιδός, vios, viou. Vios is a noun of irregular declension. Smythe shows all these at section 285. And he shows here, you can examine it closely on your own, that vios has 3 different stems. So you get a quite wide variety of forms, but they're pretty easy to spot just because vios itself is a rather unique word. We have the very interesting and important verbal particle or sentence adverb, de. It's post-positive, except in Homer, degar, and Poetic, de tota. It marks something as immediately present and clear to the mind and gives greater precision, positiveness, and exactness. It sets forth what is obvious, acknowledged, and natural, and often corresponds to the French voilà. De is used with single words, especially adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, and conjunctions, or as a sentence adverb with whole clauses. De usually stands after the word it emphasizes, though it may be separate from it by one or more words. That's Smythe's introductory description of this important particle. So we have ex ou de ta prota diaste ten erisante. Then next important is ara. Ara or ra comes in various forms depending on whether it's before a consonant or not. It is, they are all postpositive, meaning they come second in their clause. It's a connective, confirmatory, and inferential particle, marking the immediate connection and succession of events and thoughts. The natural, direct, and expected consequence of a previous statement of the existing situation or of the realization of experience of some sort. An agreement of various kinds. Agreement such as between assertion and reality. Oh, he really did do that. Cause and result. Oh, it really did turn out that way. Premise and conclusion. Explanation and what was to be explained. So again, this is ara is one of these very subtle particles that really have no parallel in English, and one has to get used to them, and they are very important to the subtlety of Greek expression. So we'll see it in tis tar sfωe de on eride sun eke mάχ-ε-σθαι. Almost who after who then was it? Okay. And then our important verb dι-ίστημι, future diasteso, first aorist diastesa, and second aorist diastein. Now, the ίστημι and its various compounds are one of the more challenging verbs to master in Greek. It's parallel to our or cognate with our English stand, and I can say, well, I can tell someone stand that statue over to the left, and I'm asking them to do something, to move an object, and that's the transitive use. Or I can tell the person, you go stand over there next to the car, and that's an intransitive use. So you have these two, uses that vary depending on whether the voice of the verb and even the tense of the verb. And I'll give a presentation on ίστημι and the dynamics of it later. It's more than we need to go into now, but we'll see some of that in reading this entry. So the ίστημι, the isteso, in this what would be referred to as the causative form, where I'm causing something to be. Okay, I set something apart. I sat the cake apart from the rest of the meal so no one would be tempted to eat it. To place separately or to separate, or likewise to set one at variance with another. And so tena, tenos, to set someone at variance with another. And the istenai tein helada, to divide it into fractions, heratis. So these are meanings that it has in the active when it's causative, and they are the transitive senses of it. But then in the middle and the passive, and in the second aorist, which is what we're going to have in our passage, it can mean to stand apart or to be divided. Okay, so we have dálasa dι-ίστατο, that's a middle form. The sea made way, the sea opened. Okay, or even ta dι-έσται, that's pluperfect participle, the chasms, things that have opened up. But of persons, and this is what we're going to be seeing in our passage, it's of persons to stand apart, to be at variance. And you see right there the the Iliad, very famous usage of that. So, and it can also further down mean simply to differ, to be different, or to stand, or to part after fighting in Herodotus, or number 4, to stand at certain distances or intervals of soldiers. And the first aorist middle is transitive and can mean to separate. So what we just need to take away from this is that we're going to be dealing with a second aorist form from dι-ίστημι, that one all the way to the right, and that our meaning here will be that of, that's under 2, Roman numeral 2, of persons, to stand apart, to be at variance. Okay? And then we have ἐρίζω, first aorist ἐρίζα, sometimes with 2 sigmas, sometimes with 1. And it's from eris, the noun we looked at earlier, to strive, to wrangle, to quarrel, tene, dative, to quarrel with someone, or in Herodotus and Plato, prostena, to strive or quarrel with someone, to rival, to vie with, to be a match for, used with the dative, and with the accusative of thing, it can be contend with someone in a thing. So that's the general idea, just to quarrel, to fight. Ἐρίζω, ἐρίζα. And then ξυν-ί-իմι, and its various forms with prepositional prefixes. Here we have ξυν-ί-իմι. This is another of the mi verbs that require quite a bit of diligence to learn. But right now, we're only going to be concerned with the second aorist, because we have this form ξυν-ί-ι-κα, the third singular. So if you look under the second aorist, Smythe has given you ἐκα, ἐκας, ἐκε. And then if you look at my principal parts at the top, you see that the ἐκα has the other form ἐκα, and that's what we're going to be looking at, the third singular of ξυν-ί-ι-κα. And so the sooner one starts to learn these, the better. But at this stage, I think you should just be happy to know or understand that this is from the compound verb ξυν-ί-իմι, and that this is a second aorist, and we'll be looking at the third singular, ξυν-ί-ι-κα. So tis tar sfωe theon, ἐρεδε ξυν-ί-ι-κα mάχ-ε-σθαι. Sfωe. This is a very Homeric form insofar it is a dual. And these are, I'm showing you part of the rather extensive and formidable chart of the Homeric personal pronouns. So his words for I, you, he, she, it, they. And so you see in the singular we have ego, I, su, and tune, tu, you, and then there's not a nominative form of he. That's always included in the verb ending, but you see the genitive forms eo, eo, and eu, even eten, Enclitic form. These are quite numerous, and it's best just to attack them as we go, as we see them in our text. But what we have here is the dual form, and we have the dual form of the third person pronoun. So those two, and you see from this chart, sfωe, sfωen, And sfωe is a form shared by the nominative and the accusative, and the genitive and the dative share this other form, sfωin. And so here we have sfωe, tis tar sfωe theon. Who then? Those two. Who then of the gods? Those two in strife put together to fight. Tis tar sfωe theon. Ἐρίζω sun eke mάχ-ε-σθαι. Mάχ-ε-σθαι. Okay, so again, the full chart of the personal pronouns of as used by Homer is quite complex and somewhat intimidating, so try not to be too frightened by it, and we'll just begin with sfωe, this looking at this dual form in the accusative. Okay. Now, next important verb, όρνῡμι. Όρνῡμι. We have future or so, and the form we're going to be looking at in this passage, the first aorist or sa, or sas, or se, and then there's a second aorist, ororon, but we're going to have, looking down at the bottom, nous son anastraton or se kakein, nous son anastraton or se kakein, and the radical sense of this verb is to stir up, to stir, i.e. to set into motion. So a bodily movement, it means to set on, to urge on, to incite. So if I would incite someone to, have another drink or something. And so with the infinitive, you have Zeus or se mάχ-ε-σθαι. Zeus urged him on to fight. And in the middle, with the perfect, you have, I'm not sure, middle. And also with perfect, aurora, to move, to stir oneself. So here, it just can have this just sense of, he moved, he urged, he stirred, he incited, he made to come forward. So look under to make, to arise, to awaken, to call forth. So Apollo, nous son anastraton or se kakein. He called forth, he sent, he roused among the army an evil plague. Very important and frequent verb in Homer, όρνῡμι. And so this form, mάχ-ε-σθαι, this is an infinitive, and we have not covered the infinitives yet, so I thought I'd give a quick introduction to them. The forms of the infinitive are, you see here from Smythe 469, there are really only 4 different possible infinitive endings, and this D, sigma, theta, alpha, iota, is a very common one, and this is the middle ending. Like I say, we'll get into the voices in our next lecture, but for now, this just has the sense of to fight. And so the next slide will tell us something a little bit about the infinitive. The infinitive of the verb, looking at Smythe 1966, the infinitive is in part a verb and in part a substantive or noun. Now, look at B. This is the key notion. The infinitive denotes the verbal form without any limitations. It just is the pure idea of the action of the verb without the limitations of number or person. So we're not talking about he, she, or it. We're not talking about singular or plural. We're just talking about the notion of the verb itself. So to fight is good. To run is bad. Okay. And then in 1966a, he says, many substantives are closely related to verbs, but not all verbs can form substantives. All verbs, however, can form infinitives. So the infinitive is just this simple, numberless, personless, the bare idea of the verbal notion. So, tis tar sfωe on, ἐρεδί sun eke mάχ-ε-σθαι. And so this mάχ-ε-σθαι, this is a very specific use of the infinitive, and we're going into Goodwin's Moods and Tenses of the Greek Verb from 1889, section 775. He writes, the simple infinitive in Homer may express a result as well as a purpose, as ôrnῡμι is seldom used there in the sense of so as, he brought the car so as to be able to get back and forth from work. Homer does not use ôrnῡμι, or uses it only seldomly, but rather he will just use the infinitive itself without the introductory so as. It thus follows many expressions which would not allow it in Attic Greek. So his first example is exactly this usage. Tis tar sfωe on, ἐρεδί sun eke mάχ-ε-σθαι. Who brought them into conflict so as to contend. And he has some other examples, one from later in the book 2 of the Iliad and one from book 15 of the Odyssey. But for now, we just need to understand that this is the simple infinitive expressing purpose, or actually result here. Tis tar sfωe on, ἐρεδί sun eke mάχ-ε-σθαι. Who brought them into conflict so as to contend. Okay, so there was a lot going on there, and we'll be looking at these passages, these lines that appeared in our explication of the vocabulary. We'll be looking at them more closely in a lecture coming up soon. But stay stout-hearted, like a hero of Homer, and continue to work hard on your Greek. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.